For ABC News in New York, I'm Dan Patterson. Joining us today is Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. How have you been? You have a book launching today.
It's a big day. I'm really well. You know, the Jets lost last night, so I'm a little bit down in comparison to a normal Gary day.
And yet, the first book of your alleged 10-book deal, called Crush It, on Harper Studio, does launch today. It's the 13th of October 2009. Gary, tell me, you had a rumored $1 million book deal that came from 1 million followers on Twitter, that came from a wine business. How did we get here today, the launch of your book, from a wine business?
You know, I got involved in my family wine business, Shoppers Discount Liquors in Springfield, New Jersey, when I was 14 years old. My dad, my mom, and I came from Belarus, the former Soviet Union, in 1978. It's a classic, you know, immigrant story. You know, my family worked really hard. We made a couple bucks, grew, saved every dollar, no splurging. I got involved in family business, massively entrepreneurial, wanted to help, saw the web evolving, launched WineLibrary.com in 1997. And while running the company, realized the web was becoming more social, more interactive. In 03, 04, started really dissecting it. And in 05, I saw a show called Zay Frank, The Show, and said, okay, this guy's onto something else. This is the evolution. This is not a 3-second clip. This is television on the web. And I want to be a part of that. And so in February of 06, I launched WineLibraryTV.com. Built up a large following, slowly but surely. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And in 2007, late August of 07, producers from Conan O'Brien reached out. They put me on the show. That led to a lot of hype, a lot of exposure, and things started really moving at that point. And then in October of 07, I started talking about business on my personal blog, GaryVaynerchuk.com, which is very difficult to spell. And that led to speaking at tech conferences about tech, business, Web 2.0 at the time, now social media, whatever it's going to be called next year. And I gave a pretty significant speech at the Javits Center at Web 2.0 that caught a lot of people's attention. By the time I got off stage, I had 4 separate emails from publishers offering me a book deal, and that's where the negotiations began. Now,
a moment ago, you said you built up a large following. In the web jargon, that means something.
Yes.
You have 1 million followers on Twitter, but what does that mean? Is that important? Do we care? Why do we care?
I think, you know, we're a numbers society, right? I mean, we love like 37 ways to lose 5 pounds in 3 weeks. I mean, we get obsessed with that kind of stuff. And I think when Twitter started hitting mainstream mid this year, people started paying attention to how many Twitter followers somebody had. And so when I had hundreds of thousands at that point, you know, almost 900,000 now, it does mean something to some people. To me, I'm much bigger on heavy users. I think somebody who has 2,000 people that follow them or care about their brand or care about their message could conceivably be bigger than somebody who has 50,000 people that follow them and has no passion behind it. To me, I wrote this book about the fact that the world is changing and that things like Twitter and Facebook and Tumblr and YouTube and Squarespace and blah, 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 they're nerdy and they're techie, but they're practical business. I'm not selling a dream.
Now, is this a wine book or is this a motivational book? How do you classify Crush It?
I classify it as a blueprint of why I've been able to build $1 million businesses in my life and monetize, and why everything has changed. That everything in this book was not possible 3 years ago. Why the platforms that are out there today are redefining media, and how that impacts every single person that's listening to this right now. Because Sally in Kansas didn't want to move to LA and get discovered. And because Pat in West Virginia didn't have the cash to compete against mainstream media companies or brands that had more money. And that now these platforms with creativity and massive hard work, tons of sweat equity. You know, this is not, you know, work a couple minutes here and there. This is a ton of work. can legitimately build a business around the thing they love the most. And that's the passion part.
So let's talk about how the normal person, the average person, can leverage things like Twitter and Facebook, and where your book fits in that that circle of mediums.
What I try to do is lay out something that was practical and not intimidating. See, I don't come from a tech background. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm a lemonade stand kid, and I'm a branding guy, and I wasn't obsessed with breaking down computers and didn't have Apples in the 80s, right? So what I know is this: I don't know that much, and I'm not that special. And I feel like, Tim, who loves karate in Chicago, I gave him the ability to read this book and understand, okay, I have to go get a WordPress or a Squarespace or a Tumblr account. Okay, now if I want to do video, I go to YouTube or Vidler or Veo. I can buy a $200 flip cam, or if it's the written word or audio, depending on your media. But understanding that if I have a passion for the Cincinnati Reds or for cooking, that I can turn that into a business today that was not possible before. And so it's really a step-by-step blueprint of how to become your version of what I did for the wine business.
Well, you got one book down, 9 to go.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
So I've been giving a lot of thought to this. I have one or two more business books that I really want to write. I definitely want to write a root beer book, which is a passion of mine. I want to definitely write a wine book or two. There's a lot of thought to writing a book about multiple revenue streams, how to create what I call tunnels. I feel like I was the wine guy, but I surely have created a lot of other opportunities to monetize. I think a lot of people struggle with how to turn these things into businesses. I think a lot of people have passion and know how to create content, but I'm trying to find ways to leverage the natural DNA that I was gifted with, and how to articulate that and paint pictures for people who don't necessarily have that come natural to them, and help them achieve really their goals. This notion of do what you love and you can make tons of money is new. It was always, if you do what you love, you're going to make less money. Go do your corporate thing, but if you quit and go follow your dream, you're not going to make as much cash. That's being turned upside down now, and that's something I'm passionate about.
Gary Vaynerchuk, the book is called Crush It. Thanks for joining us today.